Hello, everybody.
I
Welcome
should be
back
skipping
to.
right now.
It's hard to skip in frame. This small
I know.
frame.
I wish
One,
there was a way I could be skipping down the.
I mean, Wes Anderson's the only person I know that could get it a skip in a small frame like this. But we're not here to talk about a Wes Anderson film. We're here to talk about another one. But welcome to another installment of Movies Down Memory Lane, the show where three friends get together to reminisce about the films of their past, the things that were profound to them, the things that we still hold on to today. And each time another one of us brings in a film. This week it's me. I bring in a film, and it's the summertime. Baseball season is getting into the late stages, and I wanted to make sure we got a baseball film in before the end of the season. And I thought there was no other better baseball film, to me personally, than the 1989 great year, because it's the year I was born. 1989, Field of Dreams, starring Kevin Costner. We'll get into it, but guys, how's it going, Andrew?
Doing good, doing good. Yeah. I mean, you announced this at the end of the previous episode of Movies Down Memory Lane, and obviously being a baseball guy, this was. I knew there must have been some type of baseball movie coming soon, and Field of Dreams didn't even pop in my head. For some reason, I thought you were going to go with something else, but it
Well,
did.
I'll tell you what.
I've got my copy here.
I got
as well.
this is one of the few still books I'm like I love because it just looks so gorgeous. But yes, there's a plethora of great baseball movies, no, for sure. Other ones would be like Major League. I love Major League. It was a pretty heavily rotated film for me. Bull Durham's another one that was heavily rotated. I'm from North Carolina, so that's pretty close to home for me. There's a few others. The Natural I watched somewhat, but that one's a little bit more adult. That's not as much as close to home. Things like Sandlot were big.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a few others that definitely could have made this. But if I had to pick one that really is profound to me, because that's the idea of this show, is it's not just, oh, I love this movie, it's just so fun. No, it's that it has a profound effect. It has something that personally still sticks with me today, and it still holds true today. And it's something that I always will bring up and be like, hey, you haven't seen Field of Dreams? We need to watch it because it's got a lot to say other than, things about, of course, the American dream, baseball, and how that all plays into it. There's more layers to it than that. So yeah, we'll get into it. But Dan, how you doing, man?
Yeah, this movie. It's a weird irony that this movie would come up now, because I'm dealing with some difficult family things going on, and this movie really kind of brings back some of those family kind of things, specifically with a father figure. And it's always been a genre movies that deal with father and fatherhood and some sense of fatherhood. With me, because I have such a love-hate relationship with my own father over the years, and so these kinds of movies really mean a lot to me. And so and I'm dealing with a massive family issue with my father right now, and so it's weird that this would come up this week. I thought to myself, wow, what of all times to talk about Field of Dreams, dealing with the whole, hey, want to have a catch, because he wants to have a catch with his father, And it's like, man, I would have loved to have had a catch with my father. My father wasn't that kind of father. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Field of Dreams. We've talked about this before. It's one of my favorite movies. 1989. Though I do recall when I did my my love 52. Not 52, but my life, my love 52.
50 years.
50 years in film. Why did I keep saying 52?
Yeah, I don't know.
I did not pick Field of Dreams. Some people's surprise in 1989. I think I had Born on the 4th of July and something else. I had two that year, but I don't remember which one it is. Maybe I should.
Yeah, what Dan is alluding to is he wrote when it was his 50th birthday, he wrote a He wrote a bunch of articles, things of the movies that came out through his lifetime, and he'd pick like 2 movies. Sometimes he would cheat and pick more of films in each.
2.
Okay. And he would write articles and do videos about them favorite films throughout his life. And I think the reason you're bringing up 52 is because of the video series that we did with you, 52 must-see movies and why they matter, which was based on a book that we were pulling movies from. Then we were talking about them. So, but yeah, I get that, Dan. I think I don't think everybody has the same relationship with their father or even their mother. Not everybody has the same relationship, but I think if it's even if it's a good or a bad one, you can understand. There's a relatability here, and it goes beyond that. I think.
It's interesting that you bring that up because that's kind of that's kind of what happens in the movie. For those of you who've never seen Field of Dreams before,
I was gonna say before we get into it, we will be talking spoilers in this.
Right, I was going to mention that.
So if you've not seen Field of Dreams, please stop now and go check it out. It's on streaming, I'm sure, somewhere.
36 years old.
Yeah, you can keep saying years, Dan. We could say 100 years old. We could say, sometimes people haven't seen movies, especially young people.
You
so
say that. I mean, I'm kind of going off, but I didn't come to this movie till much, much later in life. Like, I didn't watch this movie as a kid. I didn't watch this movie as a teenager. I didn't watch this movie as a young adult. I came to this movie probably within the last 10, 15 years, maybe.
Really?
Probably when this Blu-ray came out, which I think was to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Universal. So this would have been 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. So this movie is probably more relevantly new to me than to you two, who have seemed to watch them when you were much, much younger.
Yeah, dude, we were watching this all the time.
So I don't have that sense of nostalgia, I guess you could say, for it. So I'm more viewing it from an adult's perspective. And it's kind of interesting that Dan, mentioned the idea that, and also Stephen mentioned too, not having a good relationship with your parental figure or your parent in general, or whatever the case may be, because the Kevin Costner character does not have a good relationship with his father. Yeah. And that's brought up very early on in this movie. And the movie kind of comes full back circle to that, in the very climax of the film. But literally, this movie starts out with the Kevin Costner character talking about his father and the strained relationship he had with his father. So for those of you coming to this movie, think it's kind of like a feel-good, like lovey-dovey movie. In a way, it is. But it's still digging into, like, the a distance between parent and child. I think that's where I think the movie really excels, is dealing with that. Not so much more the baseball thing, which is interesting, is people come to this movie thinking it's a strictly baseball movie, and it kind of isn't, but also is at the same time.
It is. I know. I think this isn't
it's not like Major League. They're going through a season, and stuff like that. There are games being played. It's not that type of sports movie. No. It's much different than that.
But I think the reason why people that really, if you really understand the movie, I think what makes it such a great sports movie is because it's about the deeper level of the sport, not necessarily literally watching people play it on screen. It's more about what baseball represents, and it's
very
used as it's more of a metaphor in the movie for the American dream. And the idea that baseball has been here as long as America has been great, and that it's this constant, and that it's something that is ever changing, but it's always still there. And so,
it is the American pastime.
That's what
famous saying. Yeah. If you build it, they will come.
But like, so that's what it's there for, as a metaphor, but also like it is reflecting in the relationships of the people in the story too. Even relationship with your father is something that ebbs and flows, and something that can change over time depending on what kind of decisions we make in life. It's the same. It's what makes the movie so brilliant, and it shows. It talks to you about baseball. It gives you direct baseball things, and it kind of shows you that at first, but then as the movie goes on, it kind of starts to show you how baseball reflects life, and life reflects baseball. Because the people in the movie that are the baseball people, in this case, Shoeless Joe Jackson, the White Sox people, they play a game that people love, and you look at them just as baseball players. But what did they do? They got themselves in trouble in life and got themselves kicked out of baseball, and them are real life things that reflected on their real life. And it goes back and forth in the movie with different people.
Yeah, it does
The White
help.
Sox scandal.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it does
Black
help if
Sox
you do
scandal.
know the history of baseball, specifically about the White Sox, Black Sox scandal, fixing the 1919 World Series, and then there were 8 members of that White Sox team and allegedly involved that were then banned from baseball. Ironically, you bring this movie up now is because they literally just got lifted from being banned from
Yeah,
baseball within like the last month or two.
It's because because since they were going to do Pete Rose, they were like, well, we better do all them guys too.
Yeah, if it is indeed a lifetime ban, these people are
Yeah.
no longer living. Therefore, that whole lifetime
Yeah.
ban thing is
Yeah,
uplifted, if you
it's
will.
all, yeah.
I mean, if you dig a little deeper, you realize Shoeless Joe Jackson was probably not involved with fixing the World Series. If you and
Well,
even in this movie, kind of hints at that as well.
Yeah.
Very early on. So, and Ray Liotta plays Shoeless Joe Jackson. There's gonna be a bunch of people that you probably recognize in this movie, bunch of character actors and stuff. Obviously, Kevin Costner was the man of the '80s. He was the
for sure.
man.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, just for people that want a brief synopsis of this, Kevin Costner plays a father. He's got a wife and a daughter. They live on a farm in Iowa, not heaven, but Iowa. And which is said many times in the movie. Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. But so they live on a farm, and then one day, and it goes right into it. It doesn't waste any time. He's in the field. He hears the voice, one of the most famous lines in any movie: "If you build it, he will come." And so, obviously that's weird, and so, but then eventually he listens to that voice and he builds a baseball field over his corn. He plows through part of his farm, which is not good for farmers, and does that. And then the voice comes back again, says other things, and it sends him on this journey where he's tested not only mentally with, the finances of the farm, how this is making his wife feel, his family, but also like his belief just in like something higher than himself. There's a certain like spiritual aspect to this that he's being led by this unknowing voice.
It's established very early in this movie that he doesn't believe in anything of that nature.
He's a hippie, so he's a hit from the hippie time. It shows kind of in a voiceover. 60s. Yeah, so he's very much a atheist. Like he's only like about like doing his own thing. And
there's an early scene where his young daughter is watching Harvey, the Jimmy Stewart film, and he turns it off. The young daughter, portrayed by Gabby Hoffman. Ironically, I was just rewatching Uncle Buck lately. She was also in that movie, which came out in 1989, I think, as well. And he turns it off, basically saying, don't believe in any of that nonsense. Because in the movie Harvey, Jimmy Stewart is talking to an invisible giant rabbit.
Yeah.
And so right away it's established, like, don't believe in this nonsense. And the movie, what's interesting, Steven describes what everybody kind of knows from the movie. That's literally the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that happens in the first 20 minutes of the movie. Then there's a whole hour and 25 minutes or so after that of plot that people really don't tend to talk about a lot.
Except to the end.
Except for the end. But that whole middle, second, and even into the third act of him going on to this existential journey, it's fascinating because there's no real rhyme or reason why this is happening. Why he is specifically this person who's going through this journey, because it does delve into the supernatural of it all. I mean, we talked about spoilers. At one point, he time travels in this movie. No one seems to bring up that aspect at all.
There is a sense, like when I was watching it again too, like I was like, when you start to think of the grander aspects of this, like why was he so special to have this experience? When he's can't be the only person with daddy issues in this, but the greater whatever decided that he had a perfect connection between these many different people and these many different generations. Which, of course, the other thing about this is a film about legacy, about generational things, So because you got Kevin Costner, his father, but then you also got Terrence Mann, which is the next place he goes to find this writer that was from his time growing up, that was very influential to him, who had expressed how much he loved baseball in his writing, and but he had kind of went away for a while because he got so done with the political stuff that he was involved in that he kind of went and became like a hermit, and so he went and goes and finds him and brings him out of what he was in, and then they come across this baseball player that didn't quite ever make it to the major leagues. So he's kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, where his only regret is that he never got to actually have an at bat in the major leagues. And so, there's a supernatural element, but all these characters somehow have a connection, a through line that all goes through Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, and it all connects very well.
Yeah, it does.
Connects very well.
And Joe Jackson's the center. What I like to think is that Joe Jackson's the one that made this happen. Like his ghost is the one.
He is the first one who appears.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is when he appears, and there are monologues in this film about him talking about baseball and the kind of, glorifying baseball, but on a very philosophical level. Yeah. I mean, it's not just a game of, hitting and running and throwing and all that kind of stuff. There's a poetry to the game of baseball that very much Shoeless Joe Jackson talks about in the movie. And then he lost all that. He actually described it as losing a limb. As something as dramatic as losing a limb when he was kicked out of baseball. And yet again, I would encourage people to go back and look up the history. He probably didn't do what they said he did. Ironically, I think most of the people involved didn't do what they said they did. The commissioner at the time just said, "Yep, they're banned anyway."
Well, the thing is what they said is that he probably took their money, but he didn't try to lose.
If you go back and look at that World Series, he actually had the best stats.
Yeah. So but he still took their money, so it still kind of put him in the position of being involved. So, to show that the people involved, the people in charge were actually making examples of him, they threw them all out. So, but it is a movie that just has so much going on in that middle section as well that you have to really stay with and take your time with and pay attention to it. I mean, I wouldn't say this movie is a complicated film, but I think you do get a lot out of it the more you pay attention to it.
It's deep.
It is. It really is.
It's very deep.
So questions for me, if you have questions. I know that's what we usually do with the person that's picking the film.
I mean, I love the Fenway Park stuff with Terrence Mann and all that
stuff.
Oh,
do you now?
Yeah. I love. What did you think of the Fenway Park stuff? The Boston stuff.
Well, I'll tell you, it's very much a time capsule piece of what Boston looked like in the late 80s. I'll tell you, Fenway Park in Boston does not look like it looked in this movie anymore.
No, they really renovated Fenway Park.
Yeah, I know Fenway is notoriously one of the oldest stadiums in baseball, so it's very much an old-fashioned looking place.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's what's important about this, the choice is that they chose the oldest stadium in Major League Baseball to put in the movie, because like that would be the place they would go visit. I mean, it would be either there or if they went to Wrigley Field.
And they're already dealing with the White Sox, so they were like, we don't want to Cubs and White. Let's go somewhere else. It makes sense that the book also takes it to Fenway Park in Boston.
That's even another reason. So I mean, I love the idea. I don't have much other, because it's a scene. It doesn't spend much time there. It's literally they go there. He gets a hot dog, and
you get like a helicopter shot of over the stadium and the crowd. They go to the concession stand.
There was a comedic element to those scenes, because on the board is like saying things.
Well, I mean, that's
why that scene was there.
I mean, it was just there to get another signal, another sign from the
board. And I'll say this: the movie is an hour and 45 minutes long, and it moves very quickly. Like each scene, like we're talking about this scene here at Fenway Park, that's just a bridge scene to get to the next part, which includes Burt Lancaster.
Oh, he's
one of my favorite parts of the movie.
And I think it's his last movie. Either it's his last or second last movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up.
I think it's his last like live action role. I think he did a voice role. It might have been his last role, but technically, but I think this is his last live action.
Yeah, he was in after this, he was just in TV stuff. He was in a TV miniseries, TV movie, and then TV miniseries. So I think this was his last theatrical film that Burt Lancaster was in.
Yeah, so you have that where you're like, oh, one of the great actors of all time. This is his last thing he ever was in. And then you also have, what's his name, James Earl Jones, who's usually a voice guy, and you get to see him in the full flesh.
He's not usually a voice. He was a great definitely
actor.
an actor that's
Lion
played in a
King
lot
and
of
Star
movies.
Wars, he's a voice. So.
No, he's in tons of movies.
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of Broadway acting too. I mean, Fences.
Yeah.
He was in the Denzel role in Fences.
Yep, on Broadway.
And he's great in this movie because he's got a small role, but kind of a vital role. And I like the way they connected him with the town of Iowa, because there's this whole like town council meeting thing where they bring up the works of Terrence Mann and how radical he is, and like some conservatives in the town don't want their kids reading Terrence Mann. They don't want their kids reading certain books. They want to ban like To Kill a Mockingbird and all kinds of other stuff. And Amy Madigan, who's really great in the movie, really great actress in general for that time, and just in general. Heck, she was just in Weapons. She's still in
the news very recently, Amy Madigan.
And she's great in this movie. She's all like fired up and getting everybody on her side. And then, of course, that connects with him having a dream about going to Boston to meet Terrence Mann, which we were just talking about. So the movie's screenplay flows like one moment into the other, into the next, and then just, all the way to the end. It's a breeze of a movie. But a lot of it is kind of like what Steven was saying, is you have to give yourself over to a lot of the, why are things happening the way they are? You kind of
I was going to say
that logic of just go with it.
This movie could be a problem for some newer modern day film Twitter that feel the need that everything has to be explained to them.
Yes,
I think that's one of the biggest issues with. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues with I think newer film fans, is that they feel that if they don't get it explained to them, that it sucks. Like, I'm like, dude, where is your imagination? Like that's most of what you're supposed to be doing when you go into the movie, is you're supposed to be using your imagination to fill in some of the blanks yourselves. That's what creates conversations about the movie later. And that's what has gotten crushed, not only by, I don't blame new fan. I blame the industry, because then they've decided to exploit every aspect of everybody's favorite thing. That's, we get every character in Star Wars has got to have its own spinoff show or movie. Like, them are the things that are ruining the imagination of the universes that they have created. And so now that mindset is being bled over to every movie people see now. Like, why didn't they explain that? Like,
that's a modern perspective of, modern audiences kind of need, there's that whole, spoon feeding the audience everything. There will be literally moments in certain modern day movies where characters have to have a monologue explaining everything. Yeah. I mean, it's not something that didn't happen in movies in the past. I mean, the end of Psycho, there's literally a doctor who comes in and has to explain the entire, what's wrong with, Bateman there. Bates. And it's just like, so those have happened in the past, but they're way more commonplace now. And for a movie like this, nitpicking this movie, you're gonna lose what the positives are from it. You're gonna lose the fact that Kevin Costner's character is going on this existential journey that does stem back to his father. And the movie, plays on that, but also plays on, I would say on a macro level, pursuing something more than yourself, but also pursuing, I would say, I know, Steven, you mentioned kind of dreams earlier and stuff like that, but I don't know, the movie is so complex. I don't know where I'm going with this trend.
Well,
I don't know what macro level. It doesn't have to be just about
baseball. To me, is one of the biggest question marks in the whole movie, because it goes in some interesting places with Moonlight Graham. How do you perceive all the Moonlight Graham stuff? Stepping over the line, don't step over the line, save the little girl, all the stuff, because he's not technically a real player, right? In real life, he never was a real player, Moonlight Graham.
There could have been an inspiration maybe somewhere, but I think
maybe he's an amalgamation of every player who didn't get the chance to make it big. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Could be that. And so the movie does set up like its own rules for these ghost people. Rules in the sense like they can only really be in this cornfield and they can't really leave the cornfield. That's established early on.
Yes and no. It's
When
it's
that
it's like
happens.
when they first meet Moonlight Graham, it's in a whole other state, in a whole other town, and
Which
then
is like, how does he
Yeah.
end up there? It's like, whatever,
yeah,
just
yeah,
forget
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah. And then they pick him up as a younger man on the side of the
As a
highway,
hitchhiker.
and they carry him across state lines in many places. So it's like it's not the rules of the. I think the magic element, the ghosts or whatever you want to call them, is something you have to understand is everywhere. The magic is everywhere. Now, when it comes to once you've entered the baseball field, I think that you can't leave again the same way. I think that's the only way you can express it. Is that I feel like that baseball field is once it was built, it became like almost an entrance way into like the other realm or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
once you step into the baseball field, you can't leave back the same way.
Uh,
So when he does in the movie, he becomes the older version of himself that can't be that baseball player he was.
Yeah, I
anymore.
do have to ask you guys this, and this is spoilerish for everybody. And I was rewatching it last night. So at the very end of the movie, the Terrence Mann character, portrayed by James Earl Jones, they ask him, "Hey, do you want to, come with us and see?" And how did you guys interpret that? Did he
Die.
die, or is he just?
I think he went to die. I think he
I-
went to die. He went to
I think there's there's even multiple interpretations that he was already dead the whole movie, that he was a ghost as
Oh.
well. Some people think that he's been a ghost the whole movie as well, and that he just hasn't passed on. But I don't think that that's true. I think that Terrence Mann is very much alive at the end of the movie, and I think that for the longest time, I think I agreed with Dan. I think I was on Dan's level where I thought he was going, and it was like his time to move on. But I don't think that clicks with the journey of the character.
Neither do I.
Yeah,
because
I
there's
think
nothing there that would, because he has a very tangential connection
Right.
to baseball. Like they really harken on the fact that he was like, very much involved in the civil rights movement and political activism and things like that. Not so much that he was like a sports writer or something directly connected to the Black Sox scandal or something like that. He only is kind of connected because of Kevin Costner's character having a dream about him and reading him when he was younger. And
he wrote a story
Yeah.
using his father's name in the
that's
story.
true too. I thought they were going to connect that a little bit more. They just kind of never did. Like, oh, maybe Terrence Mann knew.
I don't think
Kevin
I
Costner's
think
father.
maybe he could have watched his dad play baseball at
Yeah,
one point
because-
and used the
yeah.
name. It's possible because his dad would have been about the same age as his character, because Terrence Mann's obviously an older character than him. So, but yeah, they don't connect that as much as you might. If real quick, if there was any negative, I would say is I wish we would have gotten maybe a flashback scene of him and his father having some type of interaction at the beginning to open the movie.
Mm.
To get some sort of scene with him and his father to understand the tumultuousness of their relationship instead of it just being talked about.
Yeah, it's
'Cause it
just
would have been
talked
more. It would
about.
be more impactful if we'd have seen a scene.
And he only talks about it twice. Well, 3 times. There's an opening montage of him talking about his father. Then he talks about his father with Amy Madigan, his wife's character, and then he talks about it with Terrence Mann when they're traveling back to Iowa
Yeah.
on the road, essentially. And then, of course, there's the climax of the movie, which kind of ties all that together throughout.
Sure.
But you're right. But it definitely is harking on the theme of regret. I think that's what I was trying to talk about earlier. This idea of regret in life, because he does have some parts of that he regrets. Like when he left home, he pretty much never went back, and he never wanted really much anything to do with his father. And they didn't really investigate as to why, other than like hinting at certain things, like maybe his father wanted him to do stuff that he didn't want to do, or he was kind of drifting apart from his father because of the whole the hippie movement of the 60s was incredibly, about free thought and philosophy and all this kind of stuff. Perhaps
Well,
that played into it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's driving a hippie bus throughout the whole movie.
I think there's for sure that. I think think, he says that his dad wanted him to. It's one of them situations where you see it a lot. Father didn't make it doing what he loves, so he tries to make his child do it. And when he didn't want to do it, then there's a falling out. And that's essentially their split. Him deciding he didn't want to play baseball anymore is what drove them apart. So baseball, which is at the center of this movie, is the thing that tore him and his father apart, but really it's what brings them back together in the end. Because it's not that they didn't love baseball, is that, the dad regretfully tore his son away from him by making him try to be something he wasn't.
Yeah, we see that happen throughout the ages. Parents trying to live vicariously through their children. Yeah. That's something that happens all the way to this day.
I coach football and basketball.
It happens all that.
Athletes my entire life.
So my brother was like that.
Parents
so my father
take care of these to their kids.
It's fascinating that you say that, Dan, because my brother was is the same way. And ironically, this movie is also about kind of parents handing down certain traits to their children. Obviously, this sense of love of baseball, having your child play the same sport that you played or play a sport, that happens all the time, like Dan was just saying. It happens in my family. My dad played soccer when he was young. My brother played soccer and baseball. So they was kind of like a passed on type of thing, and we see it happen on the professional level too. I've lived long enough to now see the sons of NFL players play now when I watch their fathers play. So I'm now like that level of old. It's kind of crazy now. Yeah. When you watch these things for that long, you start seeing the sons of people you saw 20 years ago. It's kind of wild.
But back to what
all right, Steven, you got.
Well, I was gonna say back to what you were asking about Terrence Mann though. At the end, I don't now that I've seen watching it again recently, not just this time, but even maybe the time before. Like, I don't think he dies at the end. I do think he gets a glimpse into what is beyond. It's like almost like a near death experience type of thing. And then he probably wakes up in the cornfield. Or
I was waiting for his return.
All right, do you think the cornfield is heaven? That's my question.
Could be an entrance. Could be a gateway.
I was gonna say it's like I think when he builds the baseball field, it becomes like a mark of like a chance to see into another, like a gateway into another realm. And it's once again we're sitting here trying to explain something that doesn't really need explanation. You just have to have
the script, though. Yeah. I want to ask you, okay, real quick before you. Does this script make sense? Is this a airtight script that's adapted in this book?
Well, I can't because I haven't read the book, so I can't talk about that. But I'm sure you could, because there's so much fantasy in the story, you can poke holes all over it. I'm sure, but I mean, I'm not worried about that because I'm on the journey of the characters and not the journey of how the story is telling it.
Yeah, so, exactly. Same here. You're just following along with the characters, and the characters are so fascinating that you don't care about what makes sense and what doesn't make sense.
I don't want to try to make sense of like the bank taking away their farm and how long it takes to process and like all that stuff. How much land they actually lost in crop to build a baseball field that would have actually put their.
I started to getting hung up on small, minute details. Like, is that a regulation-sized baseball field? Like, what are the dimensions of that?
I mean, like, would it really?
Is that 460 center field? What are we looking at?
There, MLB games with the White Sox and the Yankees like a few years back, so they actually have.
I'm sure it's regulation size, but
I'm sure now, if they build it now. But I'm like, also, like I said, he builds that stadium and like that field in the first 20 minutes of the movie, and it looks like a picture perfect stadium. Like the grass is perfect, the lines are beautiful, and I'm like, I started getting hung up in like, how did he do that?
hey, as he says to his brother-in-law, I know more about farming than you think I do. He knows. Exactly. He knows how to be. Look, it's Kevin Costner, man. And
he was
if
at the top of his game at that time.
Oh, and if there was no perfect actor that represents Americana, it's Kevin Costner. He was perfect for this movie.
He was on fire at that time in his career.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't think Terrence Mann dies. I think he just gets a glimpse into what's beyond, and I think like I was saying to him, I don't think his journey makes sense for him to just die and move on. I think sometimes people need, they probably looked at somebody like Terrence Mann, who's connected to this whole storyline, and they say he needs our help. He needs a glimpse, because he's a writer. He's somebody that needs to see something.
A skeptic too,
right? He's a skeptic. Yeah, he needs to see it so that he can talk about it and then write about, as he jokes before he goes out there. He's like, I have something to write about.
Exactly. And he hasn't written anything in decades. That's another thing.
He's like a Catcher in the Rye type of guy.
J.D. Salinger.
Yeah, he's portrayed as like a J.D. Salinger.
Well, the J.D. that's who the character is in the book. The book, it is him.
Oh, well, so there you go.
That's what I haven't read the book, but I know that's the case from special
that makes
features.
A lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so the movie is also kind of like about redemption, and that's kind of his redemption, is getting that inspiration back to write again, or getting that inspiration back to do something that you were passionate about once upon a time.
Yeah.
Reignite that flame. That's kind of the bigger picture thing I was trying to talk about earlier that I completely whiffed on. That's what kind of the movie is really kind of trying to bring out, is the sense of redemption and reigniting certain passions that you have for life in general. You know what I mean? It happens for the I almost said Otto Graham. It's not Otto Graham. The Archie Graham character, where he didn't get to play, his great, but he never really regretted it. But you can still tell that it was something that he always wanted to do. His main passion in life was becoming a doctor and helping people, being charitable in that regard, which he got to do. But there was still one puzzle piece missing in his life, and he was able to fulfill that, and that's why he was able to kind of, move on. And all these other, White Sox players were able to play the game that they loved so much again on this field in Iowa. So the movie is so good on that level.
It's dense character-wise, and I think, all the characters play into the themes in different ways. Like you said, I think, obviously Ray, is his redemption is to get to see his father one last time, because he didn't get a chance to really say goodbye to him. And Moonlight Graham, his story was more that he just missed it, and he went on to have a life with meaning anyway. His life isn't a tragedy. His life is just that he just missed out on something that people would perceive as being a tragic thing. And then Terrence Mann lived a very inspired life, but it led him down a path to darkness that it's like he forgot that the journey is what mattered. And because he didn't inspire enough change, he got very he got very cynical about all of it and went away. So he gets reminded the journey is what matters in this whole journey he goes on with Ray, and then it re-inspires him, and then he goes on, and now he's inspired to do something more with his life again, even at the old age that he is. So I think that's why him dying doesn't make sense. But it's many journeys of different people getting a second chance. And that's part of what the American dream is immigrants, people coming over, getting a second chance. It all plays into the theme really nicely. And I think it's a brilliant movie. It's one of the best of all time. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's probably, I teeter on whether I put it on as number one or number two of the best baseball movies of all time. I know it's blasphemy to say, but I think Pride of the Yankees is a phenomenal movie, because I'm a Red Sox fan, but I love Gary Cooper as Lou Gehrig in Pride of the Yankees, So, this is an amazing movie. It's one of those movies, people always say, oh, does it stand up and this and that and the other? I would say this does stand up. It's one of those, it's a 36-year-old movie, but it stands up and it makes you keep asking the questions. When movies give you that where you have to keep asking questions, then that means they stand up, that they mean something, when people. And you see new things in this movie as well. There's Easter eggs in here all the time that I'm constantly finding when I'm watching it, that if you pay attention, you can find these little Easter eggs that are still fun. And I've watched special features. I've watched interviews with the director and stuff like that. And he's like, all the stuff hasn't been found. All the little things that are in this movie not been found. You know, it's just still little things that are in there. But obviously, the father stuff to me is the most impactful. You know, I mean, at the end when he says, "Hey, do you want to have a catch?" He brings the father out of the corn, and Dwyer Brown. It's really the only role the guy has ever done worth a crap because no one's ever seen him in anything else. But he's remembered for this role, and he'll have that the rest of his career. Dwyer Brown will, he plays the father of Ray Kinsella in The Field of Dreams. You know what I mean? And I never had that in my life. I never had a chance to go and have a game of catch with my father. He wasn't that type of guy for me.
Yeah, I don't have that. That issue. Like, I mean, I think I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, Dan. I have a great father, and our relationship's great. But
right, same here. And in this film, I think, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, it makes you appreciate that a lot more. And I would say, especially as we get older, and as time goes on, I think you appreciate that aspect of this film a lot more, because you realize that that the Ray character didn't actually get to have that relationship, never got to play catch with his father until after his passing. So it makes you kind of appreciate familial ties, personal ties a lot more. And I think that's why this movie, like you were saying, Dan, holds up really well, because I think it gets better and more relevant as the people watching the movie get older. The themes become a lot more stronger, because as time goes on, they begin to appreciate those relationships a lot more. So the very ending of this movie is what you're describing, and the movie kind of ends. It
ends with one more great magic trick, which is that one of the last great monologues of the movie, James Earl Jones does this whole thing of "people will come, Ray." It starts with his daughter. His daughter's like, "People will come, they'll show up, and they'll buy tickets." And
what's interesting is when you're watching this movie for a first time, you're expecting to see that scene.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, they're going to host a big baseball game here, and people are going to come from miles around to come to this thing, and it's going to save the farm. In a traditional movie, that would have been the climax of the movie. This movie would have been an extra 20 minutes, half an hour longer, or whatever. And they would have had that
in a modern film.
Film, I'm saying.
I wouldn't say traditional, but I'd say in a modern film, they would have went the full mile, and we would have had everybody,
because you got to save the farm, you got to save the day.
If they remade the movie today, you would have to
they would. Please don't say that. Don't
they would do
those
that.
words out there.
But the thing is, you don't need this movie doesn't need that, because it's not about saving the farm. It's not about beating a bad guy. It's not about beating an antagonist. It's an internal story. It's an internal journey. The victory is that personal level, because if you build it, he will come. You think throughout the whole movie that the he is Shoeless Joe Jackson, and it's not. It's Ray's father. It's really the journey about him.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's about him, but it's the voice is his inner voice. I mean, that's what Joe Jackson says to him at the end. He says, he turns and says, "It was you the whole time." He's like, "No, it was you, Ray. It was you. It was your voice. It was your inner voice telling you needed to do something to make this happen." And so it was him. I mean, he was hearing voices. It was hearing his own inner voice telling him that it was his own conscience telling him that he needed to. Yeah, there was a magical element to it, but ultimately, his inner spirit told him he needed to do something, and Ghost led the way. Like you said, you don't want to get into the whole let me explain this, but you just got to go on the ride.
This movie's a lot closer to Angels in the Outfield than I think people have ever mentioned.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, the movie ends with one great magic trick with the big speech, and then at the end you see it's getting dark, and you see all the cars lining up to the farm, pulling in, and that the farm, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, the lights come on.
The reward of their faith in what was happening was rewarded. They didn't think about, which is the whole what I said earlier. Specifically with Terrence Mann. He didn't get the end he wanted, so he kind of went to a cynical route. All the characters went on a journey, not trying to question too much what's happening. They just went on the journey, and what happened is that it all turned out okay, and everybody got what they wanted out of it. Moonlight Graham got a play. Moonlight Graham, which my favorite scene in the movie, Moonlight Graham gets to have his wanted bat, and he winks at the pitcher. Love that scene. He talks about it when he's older, and he said, "I just wanted to do it one time," and I love because he winks at him, and then he throws at him. The pitcher throws at him and knocks him down, and then he takes another pitch and he tries to hit him again. And I love the part where where Moonlight's like, "Are you going to do something about that?" And he's like, "Watch out, you don't get killed." I'm just like, that's awesome. That's like old school. Like that's what an old school umpire would have done. Right. They wouldn't have thrown at anybody. They were like, "Watch out, you don't get killed, buddy."
And the thing is I don't even think he gets a hit. I think he
gets an RBI fly out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice fly. And then there's a subtle scene. Like this is really like movie magic, great acting, great everything. When movies I think are at the best is, visual storytelling. You don't have to, like you were saying, you don't have to explain everything, through dialogue and anything like that. He gets back to the bench, Moonlight Graham, and he sits there and he looks at Ray. And there's just this knowing between both of them that this was his moment. That his life's now complete.
Well, he's like thank you. It's like a thank you.
It's like almost like a like a nod, but he doesn't do the nod. Yeah. But there's just a connection there that his life is now complete, and he doesn't have to say thank you. He doesn't have to mouth it. There's nothing. There doesn't need to be a narration of Ray saying, "Oh, I knew in that moment that his life was now complete." You didn't need that. You know what I mean? We could figure it out on our own.
Yeah, and to even prove more that maybe the field's became a gateway to like heaven or wherever you want to call it. At the end when Moonlight has to come off the field and then he gets turned back into his old self, and he has to save Ray's daughter from choking. Then he goes into the cornfield to leave. He leaves again through the cornfield. So now he gets to move on. Where he lived was where he died, and maybe his ghost was stuck there. And now that he's had that one at bat and he's gotten through it, now he can move on.
I want to talk to you real quick. I don't see this being remade, okay? But I do see if someone had a brain and had some clues and had some inspiration, maybe a sequel.
You could. It would never be as good as this movie. Yeah. Because unfortunately, to do a sequel, you essentially would have to do the movie again. Because there is no other plot. Unless you're going to say,
it's a pretty airtight plot. Yeah.
There is no other plot other than like, somebody's going to try to take the farm again, or there's going to be somebody or the crops are dying, and so essentially the field. The next story would probably be like the daughter has the farm.
What's his name? Yeah. What if Kevin Costner's character died?
Well, sure.
She didn't have the life she thought she could have with her father.
But it would be the same story again.
Okay, yeah. I guess you're right.
Instead of a father-son story, it's now a daughter.
And unfortunately, I hate to say this, baseball does not play the same today as it did then. No. Baseball is the third or fourth favorite sport in America now.
It's a lot different now than 30 some odd years ago. So baseball's popularity has gone up and down.
No sequels.
You could remake this movie with a different sport, like somebody built a football field somewhere.
No. No way on earth. Because you already have Lambeau Field. Why would you build a great play, a place that's like an amazing place? You already got Lambeau Field, one of the greatest places on.
Well, I'm just saying,
it's a football stadium.
I don't see this movie. It would get remade before it got a sequel, I think.
Yeah, I hope not.
But I don't think baseball plays in that. Unfortunately, doesn't play the same way anymore. I think that this movie lives in a time, and I think that it's there, and I don't think anybody's going to probably remake it.
No, I hope not. Please.
And it's fine. I don't need it to be remade. It's kind of a timeless film. I don't think this movie really. Dates. I think so maybe some of the contextual things of like when Costner and his father grew up, the time they grew up in, but
Yeah.
other than that, it's pretty timeless because it
Yeah.
doesn't lie on the world to really tell its story. It's just them traveling a lot and then
Dial-up phones, stuff like that.
yeah, I mean, that stuff's not that big of a deal. I
No,
think
we all know that dial-up phones existed. We all grew up.
Well,
with
I
dial-up
mean, like, yeah, I mean, the movie is very much part of its time. For example, he drives from Iowa to Boston to go get thing, whereas like today, it would just be like a phone call or an email. You know what I mean?
maybe.
Like, I don't know if he would like show up all the way
fly.
there.
Flying's pretty cheap now.
Maybe, but I mean, that's just a choice. I mean,
you drive to Chicago and fly to Boston.
I mean, you could take a plane out of Iowa.
Yeah, you're right.
Sure,
You're right.
Des Moines
or
wherever.
It might be cheaper than driving, probably because gas prices are so high now. It wouldn't make sense, but
Yeah, what's crazy is he drove from Iowa to Massachusetts, which that's not a short drive,
Minnesota.
and he drove from there to Minnesota, and then I guess Minnesota back to Iowa. So he must have been on a heck of a
road trip
like
there.
like a
driving.
weeks-long vacation, if not longer.
It was definitely probably at least a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's a ride.
So you're obsessed with this, obviously, Steve.
Yeah, I'll just say, get the thermometer out.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with this movie, as you can tell by my passion about it. It's high on the feelometer for me. If the damn thing will come up, it's trying to come up.
Technical difficulties.
I mean, I just clicked on it and act like I didn't click on it. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Feelometer. I am definitely on the obsessed. I've always loved this film, and I'm honestly just watching it again. I just and yes, I cry at this movie. There might have been a time where I cried harder at this movie, but now it's more like a well up of tears in my eyes. Like, especially of course at the end with the father stuff. Even though I don't have that relatability of that, like necessarily that situation, but I can understand, especially being a dad now, like how much it would hurt if my daughter felt that way about me and I didn't get a chance to see her for many years, or I never got a chance to see her again.
I mean, we didn't even bring up that aspect of it, because the way parenting is now is vastly different than the way parenting was between whatever ages, who it would have been like the 50s and 60s. Like the way people parented back then versus the way people parent now is vastly different.
Sure.
So it also different generations now. Obviously, Steven being a millennials is as much different than Kevin Costner's father would have been, even pre-World War II generation. So I don't even know what those are. So it's just a completely different dynamic here. But as you said, Steven, it still hits you as a modern day father and a modern day parent. Like you couldn't imagine what
I can't imagine
that strain would be like.
It's sometimes just the thought of like, if I didn't have, I love my dad so much. If I didn't have that ability to see him before he died, or like just the thought of that, or the thought of having a bad argument, or something stupid and then something happened, like just the thought of that happening is enough to upset me. And being
that's where the emotion comes in,
and being that I've had catches with my dad, not even that long ago. It is a special thing. It seems so simple, but it's like something that you can do together. You can have conversations while you're doing it. There's a connection. And because my dad loved baseball growing up and played it. And then I played it. My brother plays it. It is a generational thing for us. So it matters a lot. And then, just on all the other levels, just understanding, that, life is a lot more than like some of the choices that we make. It's you make a bad choice here, you make a good choice. You don't have to define the rest of your life. And Ray finally makes the decision that he isn't going to let that decision hold him back from, having a different outlook on the rest of his life. And so that's the way you got to do with your own. I think, if there's something you regret in your past, then you can't let it define you the rest of your life. You have to decide to make better choices and put it to peace. So that's, I think, the greatest message the movie has. People, baseball, America, all that stuff's great, but to me, it's the the idea of, you know, being able to move on. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Good stuff.
obsessed as well with this. It's a movie that's really meant a lot to me over the years as well, Steven. So when you brought it up, I was just like, okay, well, there's another one that I'm gonna love because I love baseball, but I also love the whole father son aspect and this is the redemption stories for like Terrence Mann and then Moonlight Graham and these
Yeah.
type of stories. Everybody kind of gets a happy ending in this movie, and it's
It's-
really kind of cool.
It's one of them things where people would call this a sentimental movie, and I would say, yeah, fuck yeah, it is. It's a fucking good one too. It's a one that it's good to have, especially, you know, people would call this a dad movie. Yeah, it's. I guess you could say this is a dad movie. I don't know. It's a movie that can make a man cry because of how it just touches at all the things. Not only because it's about baseball and Americana and all that stuff, but like it's about, you know, a lot. If you want to get even deeper, like a lot of men in all over the world, you deal with repressed feelings. Men are kind of told, a lot of men are told not to share their feelings a lot. So when there's a movie that's about men having to share their feelings and how that's cathartic and that it can be rewarding, it makes us feel like we want to do the same thing. And it makes, instead of actually doing that, we might just cry, you know, as a man. So I think that why men cried, even men cry at this movie, is because there's a cathartic aspect to it that not all of us actually are able to do, because, you know, it's difficult. So, but any last, Andrew, where do you feel on this?
Yeah, I'm so borderline obsessed with it.
I feel like the way you talked about it tonight, you're pretty, like, you might not, you came to it a little later than we did, but it seems like you have a lot to say about it that is like making you pretty close to being obsessed with the movie.
Yeah, because there's so much good in it that overrides any of the kind of like question marks that you have with it. Like, to the point where, like I said, you kind of have to go with a lot of those question marks and just kind of give yourself over to movie magic of it all. That's why I kind of, you know, I don't get quite to that obsessed level, but I'm damn pretty high.
Come on, Andrew.
Yeah.
Come over to our side.
Yeah.
Come on, Andrew. Give me
It's a beautifully shot film. This was nominated
It is actually
nominated for
gorgeous.
Best Picture. Oh,
Score
James
is
Horner's the score
James
is
Horner's score. I forgot about that.
oh,
Very nice.
so great.
God,
It gives me the chills whenever it goes to that.
chef's kiss on the score.
Yeah, when it has that like that chimes, like, you know, like it's it gives me the chills every time.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm pretty damn close to obsessed as well.
All right, I'll take it. Take it.
But as for, I don't know. Do you want to talk about what we're going to talk about next?
Well, I was going to say, that's it for our discussion of Dreams, 1989. If you love the movie, please share the love. Please let us know. Let us know how you feel about Field of Dreams. Share the episode with everybody. I think we had a pretty nice, passionate discussion about it. But this show does come every other week, and the next time we're here, it is Andrew's pick. So Andrew's going to tell us what we're watching for next time.
Yeah, I mean, I made my choice kind of earlier today. I was just thinking about movies that really had a profound effect on me at a very young age, really much that propelled me into my current love of movies, like my obsession with, you know, movie production and acting and all this kind of stuff. And 2008 was a very decisive year for me personally on both those levels, like personally as well as my cinematic history as well. So I'm going to go with the movie that pretty much I'm sure everyone has talked about over the last however many years, The Dark Knight.
I knew
Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight.
As soon as you said 2008, I was like, he's going to pick The Dark Knight.
I was let me paint a little picture. I was 21 years old when this movie came out. So obviously you're at, you know, that young, you know, transitional adult moment of your life. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's one of those milestone, you know, ages. You know, there's 16 when you can get to learn how to drive, 18 when you're a legal adult, and 21, I guess, when you're a more legal adult, whatever the case may be. But, you know, this movie came out 2008. I was obsessed with it at the time, literally. And it's a movie people still bring up to this day, so many years later, ad nauseum to many.
21? You weren't 21.
Yeah.
No, because
1987
I
to-
was 18. You're 1 year older than me, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I graduated in 2007.
No, I'm 2 years older than you.
Okay, well then that makes more sense. I was
Yeah.
gonna say I graduated. I was 18, 2007, and then 2008 I would be 19.
Yeah.
So
Plus 2, get you to 21.
there
Because
you
this movie,
go.
I think, came out that summer. So it
Yeah,
would have been after.
July of that year. Yeah.
Yeah, July of that year. I remember seeing it and then going back again to see
Oh,
it
I
as
was working
well.
at the movie theaters when this movie came out. So
Yeah. People must have came in
big deal.
droves.
I still remember the midnight show of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was back in
well,
the time when we did midnight screenings of
Yeah,
things.
midnight shows. I love it. I remember Epic in Deltona, Florida. I went and saw. I was like, "What the heck did I just see?"
Yeah, let's not give all the
Yeah,
cool stories
We'll,
away.
we'll
No,
get
I'm not.
into it next time.
That's just a nugget. That's just
Yeah, a nugget.
small nugget.
It is definitely a big one, but we'll get into it on our next installment of Movies Down Memory Lane. Thanks, guys. Of course, follow Dan at FromTheFourthRow.com where he's doing all his reviews and Survivor. Is the Survivor show back up and running?
Yeah, we haven't done a new episode yet. I thought we were going to do one last week, but my brother, we've been having some issues with other things
You
going
got
on.
family stuff going on, so
Yeah.
So, but just keep an eye on that. But Dan, of course, has got his website that you can watch all, listen, read. I keep saying watch, listen, read his reviews. And of course, Chasing Labels. If you're not subscribed yet, do that. And
We
of
will
course,
be having a new episode Monday,
Yep.
which we will be getting into all kinds of things. Yeah, all the announcements of the last 2 weeks or so. And we'll be diving into all that stuff. And then, of course, we will be having Unwatched Pile sometime, I'm assuming, within the next 2 weeks.
it will be in 2 weeks.
So, yeah.
Then the last Monday of the month. So be ready for that. And of course, hey, keep build your own field of dreams. Have a good night, guys.
If you build it, they will come.